Everyone, happy Thursday. When it comes to health and fertility, our bodies are always trying to communicate with us. However, with our fast paced lives, we often miss the messages our bodies are trying to send us. For people with a cervix, bodily fluid can be a key indicator of what is going on inside your body. To the untrained eye, it might be challenging to interpret what your cervix fluids are trying to tell you. That's why we're so glad today to chat with our today's IG guest, Krystal Kirton-Somlai. Krystal is a fertility health coach that uses the Fertility Awareness Method to prevent pregnancy naturally and help you conceive when you are ready. And during this live, we're going to discuss how your cervical fluids, cervical mucus, can tell you what's going on with your hormones and how to maintain optimal cervix mucus production. So,
Hi. Thank you so much for taking the time and join us.
Thank you. Let me just increase the volume. Sorry. Yeah.
Yay.
Excited to be here. Thank you for having
Tell us.
me.
Oh, no, thank you. This is the topic. I think it's super, super interesting. And then it's also very, very applicable. Tell us a little bit about your background, like how you became a fertility health coach.
All right. Okay. Well, my business and the work that I do today, what it has, evolved into, it's the reason I'm here is based on personal life experience. So I'll have to tell a little bit of my story, if that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We love stories.
Yeah, all right. So basically, as a teenager at the age of 14, I was put on the pill for really bad period pain and for acne. Right. So I had really bad period pain and acne. My mom took me to the gyno and they put me on the pill. And it worked. Okay. And I chose to remain on it into my adult years up until I was ready to conceive. And so when I was ready to conceive, I came off for a year to have my first child. And then once I was off of the pill and I felt what that was like to be off, I knew that I didn't want to go back on, right? I knew that this was something that it's no longer for me. So once I had my baby and got to the point where I was like, okay, so at this time, we're not ready to have children again straight away. So I don't want to go back on the pill. What do I do? So I had a conversation with friends, with my doctor, and nobody could really give me, like a viable option or like a viable replacement that was natural, because that's what I was searching for, something that was natural. And so, well, we decided, okay, let's just go with, good old condoms, barrier method, until we can figure something else out. And about, maybe 10 years using a barrier method, along came the advent of smartphones. And I mean, I'm kind of giving away my age here, but my oldest daughter is like 15 years old. So that was a really long time ago. And the internet and everything that the technology that we have today, it just wasn't the same, right? It really wasn't the same. So along came smartphones and apps, and I discovered these period tracking apps.
Mm-hmm.
And, you just enter the start and end date of your period, and it will basically tell you when you're fertile. So you would know, how to manage your fertility, right? So I was relying on that app. And I mean, it worked until it stopped working or it didn't work. It was inaccurate and I got pregnant. So
That's amazing.
Once I had my second child, we were like, okay, nothing wrong here. This is great. We're happy. But if we don't want to have any more surprises, we need to really get serious about this prevention thing, And of course, luckily, the internet was much more advanced at that point, and there was social media now and everything. So I was able to find the Fertility Awareness Method. So I found the Fertility Awareness Method. At first, I got the book, which is called Taking Charge of Your Fertility. It's like the Bible for the method. I tried to teach myself, but I was never confident. What I was seeing in the book didn't match up to what I was seeing. And as I said, I really wanted, at that point, I knew I wanted to be serious about prevention. I didn't want to wing it anymore. I didn't want any more surprises. And then luckily through social media, I found a fertility awareness educator and I enrolled with her to get trained properly in the method. And so I used the method for a couple of years as a user, and it was just so transformative for me. It changed my life so much because finally I was able to accomplish this goal that I had for so long of being able to prevent pregnancy in a way that aligned with my values and my holistic lifestyle and everything. It was just everything that I really wanted and was searching for. And not only that, but the body literacy that came with the program, with the training, the education. I was like, why am I like 35 years old and only just learning about all of this stuff, So it was really great. But 2 years in, I realized that not only do I want to practice this method as a user, but I want this knowledge in the minds and the hearts and the hands of more people. So I decided to go and do a teacher's training so that I myself could go on to teach other women. And that's how I arrived here today in this position as a fertility coach and specifically fertility awareness coach. So sorry for the long story, but
No,
that's how I got
beautiful.
here.
No, it's beautiful because I felt like this is how people feel comfortable, especially with coaching, that you have to, build this rapport with people. So I felt that your personal experience really played a huge role in terms of advocating natural way of pregnancy prevention, which is huge because we hear so much about people getting coached on getting pregnant, but not so much on preventing like unwanted pregnancies. So, why do you believe some people actually needed coaching on, preventing unwanted pregnancies?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, I think if I use myself as an example, so I'm 45 years old, and if I think about it, let's say in my adult life, I've been, let's say, sexually active for about 25 years. Of those 25 years, I was in prevention mode for basically 25 years. There were only 2 moments in my life where I stepped out of prevention mode to try to conceive, right? So most of us, we spend the majority of our adulthood trying to prevent, right? And as I said, when I discovered the method and the body literacy that came with it, I was so sad and angry and I felt empowered, but at the same time, I was like, why didn't I know all of this before? Because if I had known all of this before, I would have made very different decisions in my early 20s, in my early 30s. I would have made very, very different decisions, but I wasn't fully informed. So I think a lot of us feel like, there's only one way to prevent pregnancy because this is, these are the methods presented to us as the only viable options. And how can we make an informed choice, an informed decision if we actually don't know all of our options? And that's why I see that it's lacking. It's really lacking, and that's why I decided to, get into this work myself and spread the awareness because it's much needed. It really is needed.
We often say that you when you know better, you do better. So I felt that if people are aware of this fertility awareness method, then they can also make more better informed decisions. And it seems that whether you're trying to conceive or not, the fertility awareness methods may be helpful. So tell us more details on that. Like, what is it?
What is it? Yeah, awesome. So the fertility awareness method is a practice. So it's something that you do. It's not something that you take or a device that, like a patch or the IUD. It's not anything like that. It is as as it's rightfully named, it's an awareness. It's an awareness of basically your fertile days and your infertile days, as well as insight into your health, your reproductive health, and your overall health. So, as I said, it's a practice, it's a daily practice where you learn how to monitor, interpret, and record your fertility signs. All right, so first of all, you need to know what to look for. And then once you know what to look for, you need to be taught, like, what does that mean? And then you need to record it either on paper or in an app or somewhere and be able to read the data and see what it tells you about your fertility and your health. So
It sounds like
involves tracking fertility signs. Yes.
it sounds like it's a bit work, but it's like it would so pay off because it's natural, and then you also the added benefits. We often say fertility is also almost like the fifth biomarker for your health,
That's
which
it.
is so important. And then using this method, not only you can help you try to conceive or prevent unwanted pregnancy, and also even just like optimizing your health.
Exactly. Because it's all about being able to pinpoint when you're fertile or not. So if you're on the side in the, that point in your life where you're trying to prevent, you adapt your behaviors to suit. And if you're trying to achieve, then you adapt your behavior to suit, because you know when you're fertile and you know when you're infertile at any given day, at any given moment in your cycle, by amazing interpretation of your biomarkers. Yeah.
So is the checking your cervical mucus a part of this process?
Yes, because your cervical mucus is one of those biomarkers that you check, interpret, and record. So I teach the symptohormonal method of fertility awareness. There are various methods under the umbrella of fertility awareness. So the method that I teach is symptohormonal, and we track cervical mucus, luteinizing hormone surge, and basal body temperature as a tertiary biomarker. And cervical mucus is the most important biomarker that we track. Yes.
So before we get into how to interpret cervical mucus, like, could you explain what it is?
What is it? Good one. So cervical mucus is, it's a fluid. It's a fluid that is a fluid or substance that is produced in the cervix, more specifically in the cervical crypts. And this fluid changes in consistency, color, depending on which hormone is dominant in your body at any given time. So it changes, the quality changes under the influence of your hormones.
So could we not be confused the other types of discharge with cervical mucus?
Yes, it can easily be confused in that way, because all of whether it's discharge or whether it's cervical mucus, we only observe it when we wipe. So we observe it as we wipe the vulva when we go to the bathroom, and that's how we can observe it on the tissue. So in particular, there are 3 other types of discharge that can be confused with cervical mucus. And the major one, the biggest one, is vaginal cell slaw. So vaginal cell slaw is the natural shedding of dead vaginal cells, okay? And that can also be observed depending on how much shedding has been done. That can also be observed either on your undies or when you wipe, okay? So vaginal cell slaw is not cervical mucus. It's not produced in the cervix. It's not influenced by your hormones. It's produced by your vaginal cells. The second one would probably be arousal fluid. So arousal fluid is produced, again, not in the cervix, but in and around the vagina. And the thing is with vaginal fluid is it tends to be quite wet and moist and slippery. Very much, the qualities are very much like cervical mucus. But again, it's not cervical mucus. It's not produced in the cervix. It doesn't have, your hormones don't have any influence over it. And the third type of discharge would be ejaculation. So that, is a fluid that contains sperm. and it looks a lot like mucus. So if you've had unprotected intercourse and there's ejac and then it's coming out from you, it can look a lot like cervical mucus. So these are the three major types of discharge that can look a lot like cervical mucus, but they're not anything like cervical mucus. And that's why it's super important, if you're thinking about getting into using fertility awareness as, contraception, as a method for preventing pregnancy, that you work with an educator, because that's what we do. We train you in all of these different types of discharge and mucus and what are the differences between them, and teach you how to identify what's what. What's what am I seeing here? What is this? So that you can become confident in actually identifying your mucus.
I love it. You had a great post about things cervical mucus is trying to tell you. And one is what's going on with estrogen and progesterone. How is that? Tell us about it.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, cervical mucus is, its quality, its consistency is influenced actually by your hormones. So depending on which hormone is dominant on any given day in your cycle, your mucus is going to reflect that. So the first half of your cycle, estrogen is the dominant hormone, and you will see mucus that is influenced by estrogen, meaning the quality of that mucus is quite different to the mucus that is produced under the influence of progesterone. So estrogenic mucus is very liquid and fluid and tends to be quite abundant, whereas cervical mucus, which is progesterone dominant, is very thick and pasty and almost forms like a blockage in the cervix. So it's quite different, because the different types of mucus have a different role in terms of your fertility. So it's telling you on any given day, depending on what you observe, you can literally know, well, today I'm estrogen dominant, and in a good way. Today my estrogen is higher than my progesterone, or today my progesterone is higher than my estrogen, So it's really, really cool. I mean, I think
I think it's totally cool.
But it's really cool to be able to know what your hormones are doing, just, like going to the toilet and wiping.
I mean, kind of reflect on, you also mentioned that cervical mucus is like the only fertility sign that can tell you when you are first fertile each cycle.
Yeah.
By, I guess, looking at that thick mucus.
Yeah. So cervical mucus is really the only biomarker that tells you when you're first fertile in the cycle, because it's directly affected by the levels of your hormones, right? So if we think about the two other biomarkers, which are the most popular to track in terms of fertility awareness method, which is your basal body temperature and tracking luteinizing hormone, neither of those tell you when you're first fertile. So basal body temperature tells you that you have ovulated. Like, the act is done. It's done. Mm-hmm. Your temperature is risen and it's done. Not that you just now fertile. No, it's done. It's right. And luteinizing hormone, luteinizing hormone, yes, that one is better in telling you that ovulation is coming. But if you have, if you can identify your luteinizing hormone surge, that tells you that ovulation is coming in about 24 to 36 hours. Okay, so that one gives you a heads up. BBT doesn't give you a heads up. LH gives you a heads up. But even before you have that rise in luteinizing hormone, you would have been producing fertile estrogenic mucus. And in those days when you produce that type of mucus, you are fertile, because sperm can hang out and live in that type of mucus for up to 5 days. So it is the only better biomarker that gives you the earliest, warning that, hey, something's happening here. You're now fertile. Watch out.
This is cool. You had another post mentioning that sticky doesn't necessarily mean fertile. So what does the consistency say about fertility?
Yeah, good. Well, as I kind of mentioned before with the estrogenic type mucus, the mucus that is produced when your estrogen is quite high, that tends to be very fluid, very liquid, and very abundant. Whereas the progesterone dominant mucus is really thick and pasty. So there's a lot of posts and articles and reels, TikToks, all over that saying like, okay, you look for this like sticky egg white type of mucus. And on the one hand, while I wouldn't say it's incorrect, what I do want people to be aware of is that that isn't the only type of mucus that is fertile quality. And we have to know that your like cervical mucus is produced in your cervix. And my cervix and your cervix, they won't be the same. I've had 2 children. I was on the pill for more than a decade, which influences the health of your cervix. So it depends on the health of your cervix, your overall health, and so many different factors come into play with the quality of the mucus that is produced. So that's why, again, it's really, really important to, be properly educated and trained to be able to recognize what is your fertile mucus, because it may not necessarily be that egg white stuff. It could be quite different.
I'm going to ask you that question on one-on-one part, but before that, I also have one more question, which is like, what are some ways to encourage optimal cervical mucus production?
Yeah. So given the fact that it's produced in the cervix, we want to make sure that the cervix is quite healthy. So we can be proactive, and of course, prevention is better than cure, is what I believe, and to be correct and to be true. So in terms of prevention, we want to make sure that we're not harming the cervix in any way, intentionally or unintentionally. We want to make sure that we're keeping our cervix healthy. So one thing that, and there is research to back this up from Dr. Oderblad, and it's research from way back in the 1920s, that he discovered that for every year you're on the pill, your cervix ages by another year.
Wow.
Right? So your cervix ages, meaning the crypts of the cervix where the mucus is produced, it ages, and we see a decrease in the amount of S crypts particularly. And the S crypts are the ones which are influenced by estrogen. So meaning if you are someone like myself who was on the pill for over a decade, right, your cervix would have aged. The crypts which would produce that estrogenic type of mucus are, let's face it, older than they should be for your age. You know what I mean? So the research didn't go as far as to say if like when you stop taking the pill, if it snaps back, if it goes back, it didn't delve into that. But that is very, very, interesting and important for people to know. So we really want to care for our cervix, to be aware as well if you have any type of invasive surgery that involves some type of equipment having to pass through the cervix to get to the uterus, that there could be, unintentionally some damage done, or, clipping some crypts of the cervix. So just to be aware of all those things. Unknown or untreated STIs, infections can damage the cervix. So if you want to be proactive and preventative, want to think about all of those things that affect the health of your cervix. And in terms of what you can do, of course, as I mentioned, cervical mucus is a fluid, it's a hydrogel. So you want to make sure you're staying hydrated. You want to avoid as much as you can certain medications. Like it's really interesting because medications, for example, like antihistamines, like their role is to dry up mucus. Cervical mucus is a mucus, right?
Wow.
So you take those things.
That's so interesting.
They have a drying effect, So, and there are other different types of medications too that can, affect the production of the amount of mucus that is produced. So yeah, if you want to make sure that your cervix is healthy, that you stay hydrated, that you have a diet that's rich in antioxidants, vitamin A and vitamin C have been shown to be particularly beneficial for cervical health as well. So yeah, those are some things that we can do and not do to make sure that we're producing, adequate amounts of mucus.
This is really fascinating. This is really
Yeah.
fascinating. I love how you're saying, your mucus and my mucus are different, which makes, this whole personalized approach and understanding your body, your mucus really, really important. And I know you have the one-on-one cycle clarity consultations. So what does the session with you look like? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I do one-on-one. Actually, all of my, my services or my offers are one-to-one. I work with women and couples privately, so that I can provide that, personal touch, that personalized touch. So with the cycle clarity sessions, they're designed for someone who is just, full of questions, that you just really, you can't seem to find the answer to, because your situation is quite unique, and it's not like a general thing that you can Google and get an easy answer to. Or you've been to your healthcare provider and they're dismissive, or they just don't have the time to listen to you and, like really meet your needs. So those sessions are designed for you to, as they call it, cycle clarity, to get some clarity around what's happening with your cycles, why your hormones may be doing what they're doing, etc. If you're someone who's tried to teach yourself the method, like myself and a lot of other people at first tried to do, but you're finding that, oh my goodness, like what I'm seeing, it's just, I'm so confused. It doesn't look like what I see in the book, and so on and so forth. So those sessions are like, they give you a really nice quick win, because my aim is that you really feel seen, you feel heard, and that we can bring some clarity to everything you've been experiencing. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. You also have more targeted, pregnancy prevention and also get pregnant naturally programs. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So the Prevent Pregnancy Naturally is, for the person who already knows. You already know, like, this is what I want. I want to prevent pregnancy naturally. I don't want to have to use any hormonal contraception that's going to shut down my body. That's not me. That's not what I want. So the pregnancy, why is this? Sorry. There was a mosquito flying here. Pregnancy prevention program is a fertility awareness training program. It's over the course of 6 weeks. It's very structured. The education and the teaching, the training is very structured, but with a personalized approach, of course, because we do it privately. So I can, really hone in on your specific needs. And as I said, like, especially with cervical mucus, it's really important to work with an educator so that you can, be confidently distinguish between the different discharges and mucus and all of that. And so you don't walk away with more questions than you went in with, So that's what that's all about. And of course, you want to do it in a set time frame, because everybody's busy. And, I know it myself, when I picked up the book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, I kind of skimmed through it and I was like, it seems complicated. So it's a 6-week program. You can come in with zero knowledge and you leave 100%, in 6 weeks time. So that's what that's all about. And on the flip side, for those who are trying to conceive and, find that it's not happening as fast as they want it to happen, or as fast as they thought it would happen, and they're not really getting any answers from their healthcare provider. Maybe they're being told, oh, just wait, keep trying, everything's normal. And, deep down inside, they feel like, I don't think this is the way to go. And they're ready to maybe take a step back and take the opportunity to really learn what might be the reason behind this thing not happening? Why can't I get pregnant? I really want to take my power back and take my health back into my own hands and learn, and then start this journey towards motherhood with a fresh perspective. So, that's what that is all about. And again, it's training in the Fertility Awareness Method. And whether you enroll in either program, if you enroll in the prevention, I will teach you what to do and how to go about when the time comes when you're ready to conceive. And if you're currently trying to conceive, I will teach you as well what to do when you need to go back into prevention mode. So either way, you get, the full spectrum
Amazing.
of the knowledge and the education.
This almost come with a full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. I mean, we even got a really wonderful testimonial from one of your clients. She said there's a lot to learn about your own body. I couldn't have done it without Krystal. That's so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. I mean, the thing that I hear all the time is, why didn't I know this before? Why didn't anybody teach me this before? So I always say to women, like, maybe this education, we didn't receive it, but that doesn't mean that we have to choose to remain in the dark. Because once I, got my hands on that education, I felt like, wow, I really did spend a good portion of my life in the dark. But we, just because the reproductive health ed or the sex ed in school was inadequate, doesn't mean that we need to choose to remain, with blindfolds over our eyes. We can choose to get educated and to learn. It just takes the decision to change.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing this knowledge, and thank you so much for what you do. This is so important. I felt like, anybody who has become sexually active, even before that, they should be teaching kids, like adolescents, about these.
Yep. Yeah.
Then they can start early.
Exactly. Because again, it's the body literacy. If we have the knowledge and the education, then going into adulthood, we can make the best decisions, for ourselves, decisions which are aligned with our lifestyle, decisions which are aligned with our values. And at least, if nothing else, we know what all of our options are, so that we can really make an informed choice.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much. And then thank you everyone for joining. And for those who have not followed Krystal, make sure you follow Krystal at krystal.kirton. We're going to be following you and learning from you. This is amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.